The systems that comprise our global society are failing. Governance, banking, agriculture, you name it, they're all failing us. At a root causal level of these failures is the way we circulate money. This affects everything, from the way we live our lives and run our businesses to the collective result of unlimited production and growth on a finite planet. This is where we find ourselves in today's currency system, as in Homer's Odyssey, between Scylla, the rock, and Charybdis, the whirlpool, between the inflation, stagflation, or deflation caused by fiat currencies and the volatility caused by market speculation, market manipulation, and fraud. We need a new way to do money. The future of money is clearly digital. To date, however, early forms of digital currency, and cryptocurrencies in particular, have made a mockery of money. Money is supposed to help us circulate value. The majority of crypto projects have been funded on just two elements: time to liquidity and the ability to make their own weather. To translate, this means how fast can we go and how big can we pump this artificially. Move fast and break things. Who cares what gets broken, who gets hurt, or why? Even well-intended people, projects, and technologies have contributed to what's become nothing more than a house of cards. A total mess. We're approaching things differently. We're looking for partners who want to work with us to introduce a serious solution to the problem of money. To deliver a digital currency that is ethically sound, technically sound, and economically sound. Money that actually works. Money that best serves people, businesses, and the trusteeship of our planet. Money for the 21st century. Hi, I'm Christian Goodell, founder of Valeo. In 2005, I was opening my fourth real estate and mortgage office in Los Angeles when I started to see significant cracks in the economy. I studied those cracks, and I realized I had unwittingly participated, at scale, in the fraud that would become the mortgage meltdown of 2008. Since that time, I've deeply examined the global economy, the history of commerce, the origins of money, the banking system, and commercial law, and that's led me and my team to focus on currency. As the likes of Terra, Celsius, and FTX have demonstrated so clearly, and before them the SNL, Enron, and Lehman scandals, both crypto and traditional finance have failed to protect their participants. We need something that works for everyone, and for our planet, and we need it now. A form of money we can actually trust. One that's solid, one that doesn't lose purchasing power, one that can't be gamed, stolen, or gambled away by bad or inept actors. This is what good money looks like. It's functional, transactional, and easy to use. Commodity or commodity-based, like gold, silver, and Bitcoin. Not by political decree, also known as fiat. Not market-made, like most cryptocurrencies. Pegged to real value in the real-world economy, the cost of living. It maintains its purchasing power, is inflationless, or at least extremely inflation resilient, is price stable, or at least highly resistant to volatility, is a stand for ethical design and practices, it preempts moral hazards, is fully collateralized, with proof of reserves, has no unfunded liabilities, is as firmly pegged as possible, as decentralized as possible, as transparent as possible, open and accessible to all, borderless, neutral, unbiased, apolitical, censorship resistant, publicly verifiable, and not subject to market cycles. A value so reliable that it creates a constant. No existing currency meets all of these criteria. Bitcoin achieves 12 of these 19 ideals. It's the best money we have so far. For the foreseeable future, though, and even with Lightning, Bitcoin will likely remain too volatile or too valuable to function as a viable currency for day-to-day transactions. Valeo checks all these boxes to the fullest extent possible for a functional currency. It's a spendable currency that will work now, one that solves our accelerating measure of value problems and creates a reliable standard for exchange, namely, a real-world relationship between price and value. Web 1.0 was about information. Web 2.0 was about communication, and Web 3 is about circulation. The opportunity at hand is to be for digital currency what AOL and Netscape were for Web 1, what Facebook and Twitter were for Web 2. Let's onboard the world.
Hi guys, Paul Seals here with Christian Goodell, talking about the future of money. Christian, thanks for joining us.
Well, thanks for having me. Nice to be here.
We're at an interesting point in time as far as the world is concerned, and we wanted to cover off on a little bit of background about money and currency, but also the technology side of things about where we are at this point in time. And then we're going to lead into having a conversation about your projects and how that gets to fulfill and what sort of problems, etc., that solves. But appreciate your input in relation to the conversation around, well, the first of all is the main concern is that there's a lot of concern in the market in the world at the moment about like what's happening with the dollar. People are talking about de-dollarization, the stability and the longevity of the US dollar as a currency, but also there's a real concern there. I just wanted to see you start off and touch on that to begin with.
Yeah, well, that's a topic that I've been looking at for over a decade and a half. It's a pretty serious concern. We sort of keep kicking the can down the road with our fiat currencies and our central banks policies and printing more money to print our way out of the problem, which doesn't work forever. The dollar has lost 97% of its purchasing power since it started. It's worth 3% of what it originally was worth, and that hurts the people. It's great for governments because they can print money to print their way out of their debt scenarios, but they can't, people can't function free, in the world when they're on the treadmill all the time to try to make up the difference.
And I know you're in the US. I'm currently based in Australia. I think we've experienced about a 30% inflation rate last year in Australia across a lot of supply. What's the inflationary situation in the US at the moment? How's that showing up?
Depends on who you ask. I can tell you it's not 2%, it's not 6% or 8%. The real inflation rate looks to be somewhere in the range of 11 to 15%. And that, even that is suspect, because just looking around, day to day, everyone can see that it's costing far more to buy fuel, rent, purchase property, food. We're not, the official word on inflation is nowhere near what it really is, and that's a problem. We need to get beyond degrading currencies that devalue by design. Are they're sort of a control mechanism. They're hidden tax to the banking system and the governments, and that's not fair to people.
Absolutely. And I think the thing is as well is that I spend a lot of time in the States and the US, and I've been tracking with what's happening with the prepper movements and that sort of thing. And we're going to be having the conversation about what you guys are up to and the solutions that you provide moving forward. And I know a lot of people in the so-called prepper movements and that sort of thing, they're going to hard currencies like precious metals and gold and silver and that sort of thing. But there is still a little bit of resistance in the market about the trust. I think Stephen Covey said about, business moving at the speed of trust. But people are actually having a trust in a digital currency, and then, with Bitcoin and that sort of thing. But Bitcoin ultimately doesn't really function very well as a currency, about moving into people sort of having trust in digital platforms or into tech, etc.
Well, you'll get me in trouble with the Bitcoin maximalists if I agree with you too much. Well, here's the thing: that Bitcoin's the best money we've seen to date. Okay, it's trustless in that it's decentralized. It does not have an intermediary like the banks. It doesn't require one. And by trustless, I mean it's completely trustworthy because it doesn't require anyone to verify anything on a peer-to-peer transaction. So Bitcoin is the best money we've seen, and it's the fairest.
It has issues that are inherent in the way it's created that make it, for the foreseeable future, not a very good mechanism for transactions. And that one, those are not flaws so much as just innate issues that Bitcoin is dealing with. It's just the way it's shown up in society to be more of a speculative investment than a transactional currency. And it's probably 30 to 50 years before Bitcoin stabilizes in price enough to really be good for transactions. And that's just because it's market made. It's volatile. And I love the blockchain basis of it. I love the decentralization of it. It is definitely of great value, and there's a lot to be learned from it. And we're learning from it, and it's definitely a great investment. It outperforms, if you think of it as a class of its own, it outperforms any other class of asset. If you look at it singularly as an asset versus all others, okay, fine. Tesla is up more than Bitcoin this year, but the stock market's not, right? And gold is not, and bonds certainly aren't, and treasuries and whatnot. So, as a place to put money to secure a store of value, Bitcoin has performed exceedingly well. And I use Bitcoin. I'm a big fan of Bitcoin, and I believe in it. But it doesn't work very well for a currency, not yet, and it'll be decades at least before it can. So we need something else.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's going to lead me, and I'm just going to do a screen share here really quickly as well, in relation to the project here, and then in comparison, which we'll touch in a little bit more detail. I think this is really an introduction here, but for the website, and you guys are out to fulfill on this project and raise some capital in that regard as well. But I just wanted to talk to you into some of these pointers here, if you can see that you've got there in your intro video there as well, in relation to the project and the different aspects and features and functions of the project, particularly in comparison to Bitcoin, for example.
Yeah, if you want, you can make that bigger. You can click on that to expand it, to screen. Right. So, we tried to, well, we didn't try. We came up with a list of what good money should look like. And Valeo, has been a process for years now of with my team of figuring out what do we want good money to do? What is sound money, right? And the dollar and all fiat currencies accomplish one of these things. Functional, transactional, easy to use. That's the dollar. That's it. That's the only one that the dollar is really good at. Everything else on here needs to be in good money. And there are 19 of these. I would argue now that there's probably 20. Privacy is probably another important one that we didn't put on this chart. But Bitcoin accomplishes 12 of them, which makes it the best money we've had to date. Valeo accomplishes all 19, or 20 if you count privacy, all 20, and some of them are a sliding scale. They can't all be absolute, but Valeo accomplishes all 20 to the extent that they can be accomplished for good money, for sound money. So we have two, I would say, major problems in the money options today. Fiat, the problem is the money printing engine, right? The fact that it's always losing value because it's the casino economy. We're just printing money, like poker chips into the economy, and the house always wins. So that's one of them. And Valeo definitely licks that 100%. Valeo is inflation free, or at least highly resilient to inflation, and will not experience inflation like fiat currencies. And by fiat, if I don't know how experienced everyone listening here is, but by fiat we just mean, it's by decree. It's government issued or central bank issued in the case of almost everywhere in the world today. And then the other overarching problem that Bitcoin includes, and part of the reason that Bitcoin is so volatile, is that Bitcoin and other cryptos are market made, meaning their price is established as a function of people's desire to hold it and the price they're willing to pay for it, and it fluctuates wildly because of that. And that's fine for an asset. That's that market made is the way of the world.
Yeah.
But it does not work very well if you're trying to price your hammers, screws, and nuts and bolts in a hardware store and keep an inventory for 2 years on the shelf, and you have to reprice everything every morning because the price to value has changed. It changes sometimes every day, sometimes every week, sometimes every month. In huge fluctuations, and sometimes every hour or a minute, right? So you how can you have a functional currency when it's market made, when the volatility of it is the game, right? You just how do you keep anything constant? How do you and this goes back to the issue of economics, longtime issue economists have looked at, called the numeraire. It's how do you put a real price on value? How do you actually establish a price that's based on the real value of something? And price and value have been conflagrated in people's minds forever. They're not the same thing.
No.
Right? The value of a loaf of bread is the nutrition and the ability to feed your family. The price is whatever the market says based on the futures for wheat or whatever, and inflation and things like that.
Yeah, supply and demand, and I think there's definitely that's the manipulation of the market through the scarcity or perceived scarcity, etc. And it was interesting because talking about like inflation or hyperinflation and that sort of thing as well. I did a couple of trips over to Europe and places like Germany and that sort of thing, and listening to some of the stories about what happened with hyperinflation. They said that people got to the line with their pile of money, and then by the time they got to that point, they counted to buy their loaf of bread, the price had gone up exponentially and they didn't have enough.
That's Germany post World War II. That's Venezuela not very long ago, and to this day, there are a lot of places in the world where if you store your money in the currency of the land, you're losing value so quickly that the money does not serve as a store of value, a functional store of value. So money needs to be a store of value. It needs to be a medium of exchange, and it needs to be a unit of account, right? And right now, fiat money is a terrible store of value. Bitcoin is a good one, right? But only for the long run. If you needed it tomorrow, it might drop tomorrow, and you might. So Bitcoin long range is an excellent store of value, but it's not a very good medium of exchange or unit of account. And having run a tech company for 4 years, I can tell you that trying to do accounting in Bitcoin and dollars, when you spend both, and you have investors that come in with both, and you spend both, and they just the accountants scratch their heads and say, how do I do this? So as a unit of account, it's very difficult. So what the world really needs, and what we've been after with Valeo and think we've solved, is something that is all three of those things, right? An excellent store of value, meaning it doesn't lose purchasing power, a medium of exchange that works, is fully transactional and easy to use, and a medium of exchange, and a unit of account that's a constant, something that solves the numeraire issue, where the price is the value. And that's something we have not had really in 5,000 years of currency. In the history, the written history of currency, we have yet to have sound money that has all three of those things.
Well, it's interesting. I want to ask you about this point here as well, about being price stable as well. And I don't expect you to sort of give any of your IP away in relation to the project, but like we have to admit that a lot of people have been drawn into the crypto market because there's sort of been, for some people, if the timing's right, some promises of some serious upside, but like even just in as much as being able to counter the inflation that we're having at the moment. So you've got their price stability. How does this project fulfill on that?
That's a great question. So you probably are familiar with stable coins, right?
Yes.
Which attempt to achieve that. The most popular stable coins are all pegged to the US dollar. The next most popular are pegged to the euro, et cetera. So they're almost all pegged to some sort of fiat government issued or central bank issued currency. The way we achieve it is that we're not pegged to a devaluing currency. So what that does for the stable coin is it makes it, unlike Bitcoin, it's not market made. Okay, it is only to the extent that the dollar is, right, or the currency it's pegged to. So it's pretty stable over time. It's losing purchasing power though, just like the dollar. Whatever it's pegged to is losing purchasing power because they're printing more money and causing inflation and whatnot. But at least it's not volatile, right? Yes. What we peg to instead is the real economy, the real cost of living. And the way we do that is we peg to a large basket of goods that that together make up what people need to live day to day. So if, for example, it costs 2,000 Valeo to pay all your monthly bills, cover your monthly nut at your current standard of living, it will cost the same 2,000 Valeo in 10 years, 20 years, because we will still be pegged to the same cost of living. So there is no slippage of value. There is no inflation in the system, and there's no volatility.
Yeah, because let's face it, right?
Because it's not market made.
Yeah, I was going to say, because inflation is really another indirect form of taxation as well.
Basically, yeah. It's the way, inflating the currency works out great for governments, banks, and corporations. They can borrow money, spend it, then inflate the currency and pay back the interest at a discount because it costs less in the future. The debt is lower in the future due to inflation. So yeah, it's a mechanism that works great for the powers that be. It's a terrible thing for people trying to save for their families and afford their monthly nut. It's not good for people. No.
And we're at this sort of, pivot point, tipping point at the moment, whether we head towards, dystopia or utopia, and decentralization, centralization. So you say here as well, as decentralized as possible. Say a little bit more about that, please.
Yeah, sure. People talk about, well, okay, let me just back up a little bit on that one. In the tech development curve that we're in, which is quite steep, we're in the hockey stick where, technology is exploding, right?
Yeah.
A lot of people describe it as Web3, and that's kind of it's a tricky definition and whatever, but let me try to just kind of put a generalization on it. Web 1 was about information, and it was marked by the beginning of the internet, right? Web 2 is about communication and marked by the beginning of the smartphone. Okay. And Web 3 is about circulation and decentralization. And it really started with Bitcoin. Right. So if you look at those three sort of landmark technologies, the internet, the smartphone, and Bitcoin, we're now in sort of a maturation of the internet that's gone through the communication aspect of the smartphone with all the social media and all of that as part of Web 2. And we're now in Web 3. And we're, at the dawn of Web 3, really. We're still trying to figure out what Web 3 looks like, right? And that's why there's a lot of, sort of, I won't say disagreement, but confusion for sure about what really is Web 3, right? So now that we're in the decentralization and circulation phase, it's a very important one, because if you look at something like just the development of AI as the prime example, because AI is either a dystopian or utopian, right?
Yeah.
It doesn't, there's no neutral ground there.
Depending on who's driving it.
Well, AI will be driving it.
Yeah.
So it's, we could talk in depth about AI. It's a subject I know very well, but I don't think we'll do that here. I think, but if you just look at AI as the example, we have we have a need, a very pressing need for decentralization. The question, if I give you just kind of a very kind of scary thought. All right, one scary thought. That's all. Let's call us loud. Do you want Bill Gates in your head? Okay, so
I don't want Bill Gates anywhere near me or any of my family.
Do you trust Microsoft to perform updates to your brain interface? Okay, so that's the answer is no. But the technology is rapidly coming.
Yes.
Where we're already interacting with AI through our phones. And the technology is rapidly coming where we're going to be interacting with AI through our heads. Okay, we're just some sort of AI merge, just scary as hell. But if that's what's coming, and it is, Neuralink, Elon Musk's company has developed technology, it's already here, right? So okay, if that's what's coming, how do we keep Bill out of our heads? And the answer is we need to perfect decentralization before any of that kind of technology is safe for humanity.
Yeah.
We can't have top-down dissemination of information directly patched into our brains.
Yes.
That doesn't work.
No.
What we need is to know that a trustless system of decentralization, blockchain, etc., is in place before anyone's putting any sort of circuitry anywhere near my head.
Yeah.
Right. So okay. Decentralization right now is a sliding scale. It is when somebody says it's decentralized. Well, okay. So it's on a blockchain or whatever, but is it truly decentralized? Is there a back door like FTX Alameda, where you pull the money out or the information out, do whatever you want with it and stick it back in, or not stick it back in the case of FTX Alameda, just get arrested for it. But I mean, how much damage have you caused so far, doing that?
Yeah.
So, decentralization is a sliding scale. It is not, nothing is fully decentralized, even Bitcoin. It is, it's still manipulated by markets, and it's still like there's whatever. So understand that particular category, we don't have full decentralization of anything yet.
Yeah, got it. So I think we've definitely got to be, and that's what I acknowledge you guys and your team for, and what myself and my community is about, is we know that the problems that we're dealing with potentially as far as what's coming in the future, we've got to be engaged in the conversation for the solutions. And that's why I'm super excited about hearing about this project. There's a lot of concerns and a lot of anxiety in the market with what's happening with the banks, with the instability, but not only that, the central bank digital currencies, the CBDCs, and the surveillance capabilities and privacy issues that are raised in relation to CBDCs. People can go to like atlanticcouncil.org and see the tracking about how the implementation of CBDCs has been rolled out in the 130 countries across the world or whatever. You've also got the FedNow program, which was the precursor to the CBDC program that got launched on the 1st of July, 2003. So we've got to be engaged in conversations and people literally putting their money where their mouth was in relation to, what sort of future that we want to create, or we end up just getting going along in the slipstream of what the current agenda is currently that's getting rolled out at the moment, Christian.
FedNow is the Trojan horse. CBDCs are the nightmare, right? What CBDCs do effectively is take all the brilliance from the Bitcoin lessons, right, and turn it around so that instead of the most decentralized form of money, it becomes the most control-oriented, sort of centralization perfected technology for government central banks. And that's a nightmare. So we're the crypto or say digital currency community sees that going on, and companies like ours are seeking solutions that preempt that, so that nightmare doesn't become the reality.
Yes.
And it's already the reality in China. Try crossing the street without getting, you get facial recognition on you. Say
I've seen the videos on it. They almost instantaneously have the funds debited from their account in real
exactly
time.
And their social credit score dinged. So now it's going to be harder to get that next loan or whatever. And the problem with central bank digital currencies is they're fully programmable. So that if the government doesn't like what you say on YouTube, they can shut off your account, or if they don't like how much you're spending on gasoline this week, they can make it so your card doesn't work at the or whatever doesn't work at the pump. So we're that's a very CBDCs are as dystopian as currency gets, and Valeo is the opposite. Valeo is financial freedom.
Well, it's great that we're at the stage of this project, and you guys are like some brilliant minds have come together for fulfillment of this project. Where is it at the moment? I'll put some more information in the link of this video description, etc. And I think this is probably the first part of the conversation as an introduction to people, so that people do have peace of mind that there are projects for decentralization underway and being implemented, and that people are working on and raising funds for, etc.
Yeah, I mean, the future's bright. I believe that we and those we're working with will beat CBDCs to market and be a solution for everyone. And so it's a vast community of developers in the effort to do better than what the governments and central banks want for people, for themselves, really, against people. So yeah, the future's bright. Your question as to where we are, we're 4 years in development now, we're not new. We are looking right now to recapitalize. We're about 6 months to launch Valeo from the point that we recapitalized for launch. So we're looking for partners of all sorts, strategic alliances with POS companies, point of sale, type organizations. We're looking for. We're building our development community. We have a good one already, a very solid team and extended team through outsourcing and partnerships. And we're looking for serious money. not no small amount. We're looking for more now than we have spent already, which is considerable. So yeah, we're interested in speaking with people who are like-minded, who care about this sort of thing, who see the dangers of the direction that society has been moving in, at least the the primary dangers, which include CBDCs, but also include the likes of Celsius and Terra Luna and FTX Alameda and the scammers and the garbage that has really polluted the message and the effort. Now, so and we've seen, bank failures, the writing's on the wall, the dollar and really, it's not just about the US dollar. Rome is global now. The empire is global. When Rome fell. Now when Rome falls, it's the whole world. And so we're creating a global solution. We're a global team, and we're interested in meeting people who want to fund us in what we're doing. We're currently we're at a great stage of development with a great team, but our runway is running out. So
sure.
That's where we are.
Well, we're all about supporting people in your projects that are out to fulfill on the solutions, as I mentioned earlier, and then also to create the conversation for what else is possible. And we know that the debt-based fractional reserve banking system has sort of been for the benefit of the 0.01% of the population, and we want to be able to see the funds and the wealth return back to the people again. And I think that's the exciting thing about your project. You want to get to fulfill on. We'll share this video as, like I said, more or less like an introduction to you and the team and the project, etc. And I'll put a link in the description for further information, etc. And share it throughout, not just the investor communities, but also the rest of the blockchain community and the all the anarcho capitalists and all the mums and dads, and so people will engage in the conversation. I think it's definitely encouraging to know that there's projects for decentralization, other people working on amazing projects as well, particularly in relation to decentralized IDs and all that sort of stuff, that it creates the new conversation for possibility about like what's possible, rather than being engaged in the conversation for the problems and what's not working.
Yeah, great. I mean, decentralized ID is another very important one. And I know people working on that specific solution with great headway. What is digital ID? Well, it's coming. The question is, do you want your digital ID to be government based, or do you want it to be private? Do you want, we need to change the playing field from where we're the product, because every time we use an app or whatever, they're collecting our data and selling it to, that makes us the product, right? And it needs to be so that yes, we can identify ourselves, and we, proof of human is going to become important in that.
Yes.
How do we know what's AI and what's human? But it needs to be solved in the right ways, so that we own our own information. So that we can transact and communicate without Big Brother, and if we don't solve these things, we don't live in a free society. And it's the same with currency. Our solution is so that people are financially free and not subject to the banks and the government.
Yeah. Absolutely. So thank you, Christian, for your time. Thank you for everything else that you guys are doing and being engaged in the conversation for, creating these solutions. Anything else that you wanted to share in closing?
Sure. I mean, I think that the most important point of what we're doing is that we've never had money that works the way we all think it should. Like we just never existed. People, if you ask people, what does money do? They either know that it doesn't, that the current money or the money we have had so far doesn't do the things that it should, or they think it already does, but it doesn't. So, I want to leave that as the thought, is that Valeo is money. Valeo is money that works the way we all think it should. It's money for the 21st century.
Absolutely. Beautiful. Well, we'll continue this conversation, Christian Gordell from Valeo. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you, Paul.
Thank you for listening.